Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the fantasy football Week 8 tight end rankings. Well, yes, we're not going to be talking about start and sits. I'm the quarterback of this offense, and I'm going to be calling an audible for today. Instead of going over start and sits, I've mentioned in the past in my other tight end start or sits videos that honestly, many of us in fantasy football either don't roster two tight ends or have such a big discrepancy between the talent of tight ends on our rosters that we already know which tight ends we're going to start. So what I'm doing this video for is for those of you who, by chance have multiple tight ends on your roster that are of good value, and just to kind of give you an idea of where I'm going to be ranking them for this coming week. This is going to be one of the shorter videos of the week, so no big deal. But I'm going to be talking about my top 17 tight ends for this coming week, Week 8 of the fantasy football season. The Thursday night game between the Dolphins and the Texans has just finished, so you'll get my thoughts on that after I talk about the tight end position, and perhaps there's waiver implications depending on the performances. But either way, as of right now, we're going to get into the tight end rankings. But before we do that, I just want to thank everybody who have supported me. Continue to like my videos, share, comment, subscribe. I will get to your questions before Sunday. That is a given. Just got to give me some time. But without further ado, I just want to thank you guys again. And let's get right into it, shall we? Hey, everybody, how's it going? So we just like we've done in the last couple days, I've been changing it up a little bit just to see how you guys like this kind of a content. Give you guys an idea of what else we can potentially do on a weekly basis. See how you guys like it. But either way, we're going to talk about fantasy points against the tight end position on average. So for the first 7 weeks of the regular season, the 2018 NFL season, this stat sheet right next to me is for half-point PPR. So these are the defenses and how many points they give up to the tight end position on a weekly basis. So the worst team against the tight end position, that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They give up an average of 16.3 fantasy points per game. And the best team against the tight end position is the Tennessee Titans, which is quite a surprise. The Jacksonville Jaguars I'm not surprised about. We know, I mention it all the time, they have great inside and outside linebackers. The Seattle Seahawks, the Seattle Seahawks defense, I guess they're nothing to mess around with. As I've gone through this, they're pretty stout on their defense, even with all those missing pieces, with guys like Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Michael Bennett leaving the organization. Bobby Wagner is still holding it down over there for the Seattle Seahawks. So let's talk about something specifically, right? So we see at the top of our screen, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who give up the most fantasy points to the tight end position. Where exactly does that leave us? Because we know the Bengals play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week, and we know CJ Uzomah, who is the only tight end on that roster because of the injuries to Tyler Kroft and Tyler Eifert this season. So does that make him a must-play? I wouldn't technically say he's a must-play, to be honest. Uzomah had his opportunity, and he's had a lot of targets these last couple weeks. Does it mean that he's guaranteed to have, the 16 fantasy points? I don't think so. I'm not sure how much this specifically correlates on a weekly basis, but I think if it was Travis Kelce versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, okay, obviously I'm assuming he's scoring 16 points. But CJ Uzomah, who's going to be the fourth passing option within that offense, it's AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, and then it's Joe Mixon out of the backfield, and then it's Uzomah to follow him. So I wouldn't buy in too hard on that. I'm just throwing these stats out there for those of you who don't have an option to look at this, kind of give you an idea on half-point PPR, what tight end matchups are beneficial and most advantageous for your matchups this coming week, just to kind of give you an idea. Other than that, many of the tight ends we're going to talk about, we're going to basically, they're a given, right? Even if, for example, who plays a really tough matchup this week? Okay, Arizona. They only give up, they're the 27th best, they're not the 27th best. They are the 6th best. Yeah, they're the 6th best defense when it comes to, limiting points to the tight end position. But they play against George Kittle this week. So what does that mean? Am I going to sit George Kittle? Absolutely not. That does not correlate at all for me. I think, Yes, they may have been great against other tight ends, but George Kittle is a must-start going forward. You'll see that in my rankings. Anyway, this is just to kind of give you guys an idea. I don't want to go on too far with this. So just to do with it as you may. But I think this is a pretty good a pretty good idea of how it potentially could go, what teams are struggling versus the tight end position, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's get into my rankings really quickly. All right, so it's plain and simple. Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, they're always going to be my number 1 and 2. Rob Gronkowski this coming week, who I've put down below, right underneath me, just right below, right there, yeah. So I don't know if he's going to play. If he ends up playing, he's my number 8. That is why I have him there. That's why I have that asterisk next to him. If in case he plays, we're going to move Eric Ebron down a notch, and we're going to have Gronkowski fill into there. But as of right now, I'm not certain of him playing, so we're going to go ahead and leave him outside of the list. Number 1, Travis Kelce plays against the Denver Broncos this week. Travis Kelce, are we surprised that he's number 1? Not really. He's the best tight end in football when it comes to, doing everything. Statistically, he's not the best as of right now. I think Ertz passed him up this past week. Let me go ahead and look at this. So yeah, Zach Ertz has 102.3 fantasy points in half-point PPR scoring. He has eclipsed Travis Kelce. Why? Well, because Zach Ertz is practically a wide receiver, having 78 targets, 57 receptions, 618 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. Zach Ertz is an animal. I know we're talking about Travis Kelce, but you can't talk about Travis Kelce without having, Zach Ertz in the same breath, or at least in the same conversation, because these are the top tier, these are the blue chip tight ends in the league right now. These guys are absolutely 1A and 1B on a consistent basis, and they continue to outperform each other and outplay each other on a weekly basis. Here's the thing right now. I think because of the fact that Zach Ertz does play against Jacksonville, who is, as you saw from the statistics before, they don't really give up many points to the tight end position. They're pretty good with Telvin Smith and what's his name? God dang it. What's the linebacker's name? I don't remember. Okay. So, goodness gracious, it's going to kill me now. What's the outside linebacker that went to UCLA? I got to find it. It's going to kill me. Miles Jack. Goodness gracious. All right. Well, at least I know where he went to college, but either way, Miles Jack, Telvin Smith, they're going to be locking down the tight end position. So Goddard and Zach Ertz, I think they're going to have a little bit of trouble. I'm not saying Zach Ertz should sit by all means. He's had 78 targets this week. So on a weekly basis, this dude's getting 11 targets on average. He's an absolute start. Travis Kelce in the same breath, in the same vein, is an absolute start. They are the number 1 and 2 for a reason. Travis Kelce plays against the Denver Broncos. Last time he played against the Denver Broncos, he was pretty successful. 7 catches, a touchdown, 70-plus yards. And he's going to continue to be great. I just feel like these last couple weeks, Travis Kelce hasn't been as good because they've leaned on the running game of Kareem Hunt, and they've just thrown the ball to Tyreek Hill in the red zone a lot more than they usually have, which has kind of taken away some value from Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce being a bigger-bodied guy, you would think in the red zone he'd be the number 1 target, but as of right now, they're running the ball well. They're extremely efficient on offense, and when they're scoring in the first couple plays of a drive, it doesn't really give Travis Kelce much of an opportunity. He's not a big play guy. He's a guy that's going to mosey on down the field, pick up receptions here and there throughout the game. But because of how electric this offense has been, and every game they scored 30-plus points, but as of late, he's just kind of fell out of the rotation. That's not to say he hasn't been great. The last 3 weeks, right? 100 receiving yards, 61 receiving yards, and 95 receiving yards, all of them with 5 receptions each. So he hasn't been terrible, but we've seen him better, and I'm sure he's going to improve this coming week in the matchup. So that's my number 1 and 2. That's Zach Ertz and Travis Kelce. Number 3, the guy that is trying to make himself or trying to move himself into the conversation of being a top-end tight end. As of right now, I would say he's the next tier down. As of thus far this season, he's been inconsistent at times, but I don't blame him. When you play against a good defense or play against a team where CJ Beathard doesn't look your way, it's gonna happen. But otherwise than that, George Kittle has been the number 4 tight end on the season as of right now, behind only Kelce, Ertz, and Ebron. Ebron having 6 touchdowns, which makes him kind of the lopsided number 3. But as of right now, George Kittle and his performances, and going forward into this matchup, we know, as I mentioned, the Cardinals, they don't give up many points to the tight end position. That doesn't worry me, too much. This offense runs through. They have to pass the ball. They as of right now, CJ Beathard, he's not going to be putting up performances where these guys are up 40 points. Instead, they're going to be down 2 to 3 touchdowns, and they're going to be forced to throw the ball on a weekly basis. So George Kittle this week, what happened the last time they played against the Arizona Cardinals? There it is. He had 83 receiving yards on 5 receptions. I expect something like that again this week. In half-point PPR, 13 plus points. That's what he's giving you on average. So I'll take that. That's why he's at my number 3. Number 4, we have Trey Burton. Okay, so here's the thing about Trey Burton. He hasn't been great all season. We know that. In fact, I thought he would have been better. But he's had a couple of good games that he's strung together as of late. Mitchell Trubisky, now that he's gotten going and is really getting to his potential where he's dropping, 55 points, 35 points, 35 points, and 6-point per passing touchdown leagues, the offense is opening up, and Mitchell Trubisky has found his number 1 and number 2 target. It's Tariq Cohen and it's Trey Burton. This past week, Trey Burton had 11 targets, 9 receptions, 126 receiving yards, and a touchdown. The week prior, 4 receptions, 23 yards, a touchdown. Okay? The week prior to that, 2 receptions, 86 yards, and a touchdown. This guy scored 4 touchdowns on the season, but in the last 3 weeks, he has scored, or the last 3 games, he has scored touchdowns. Trey Burton has been pretty consistent fantasy-wise. I think he has to play this week. Playing against the Jets defense, I think it's an advantageous matchup for them, despite the statistics. Either way, he is becoming what the Bears, picked him up for. They took him away from the Eagles organization for a reason. They paid this man money because they knew, okay, if we can lock down a good enough tight end for our young quarterback, he can consistently contribute and be a vital part of this offense. This is what we expected before the season started. We expected Trey Burton to be a really vital part of this offense. We know Matt Nagy, coming from the Kansas City Chiefs offense, he used to be the offensive coordinator there. We knew that he was comfortable with using guys like Travis Kelce within his offense on a consistent basis. So the only question was, when was Trey Burton going to be implemented in this offense in that specific role? Early on in the season, he wasn't, completely there. But as of late, he's been picking up. He's been finding himself in the end zone often. And that's why he's my number 4 this week. I like the matchup. I like how, on fire Mitchell Trubisky has been as of late. And if he's looking for Burton, it only helps his value. Number 5, we're going to be going with David Njoku this week. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they give up some points to the tight end position. And the last time David Njoku played against the Pittsburgh Steelers, it wasn't a great matchup for him. Let me see. It says that David Njoku limited in practice on Thursday. Okay, well, we'll just have to keep that monitored. But the last time he played against the Pittsburgh Steelers, it wasn't great. Why? Because Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback. Since Baker Mayfield has taken over the reins of the Cleveland Browns and gone under center, David Njoku, productivity-wise and opportunity-wise, has just skyrocketed. So Baker Mayfield, he came in and took over at, week 3 against the New York Jets. Since then, every game after, right, here are the target counts. 7 targets to David Njoku, 11 targets, 12 targets, 6 targets. Okay, 2 of those 4 games, he has touchdowns. And in every single one of those games, he has 52 plus receiving yards. In a half-point PPR, he has scored 7.7, 9.9, 15, and 13.2. He is consistently improving, and he's becoming a vital part of this offense. Other than Jarvis Landry, he is the number 2 receiver on this team. He's getting the targets for it, and he's getting the production with it. And in the red zone, considering how big of an monster he is and the athletic phenomenon that David Njoku could potentially be and really is as of right now, I think this coming week in a very advantageous matchup, Baker Mayfield's going to have to find his tight end. He's going to find his safety blanket. That's why I have Njoku at 5. Number 6, we have Jared Cook. So who is to stand and be the biggest benefactor of Amari Cooper's disappearance and also the disappearance and IR situation of Marshawn Lynch? It's not a disappearance of Amari Cooper. They traded him, okay? Let's be real. But either way, Jared Cook, he's been good this season, right? But as of late, he's been kind of garbage. Like he hasn't been worth a start in a couple weeks, right? He's had 2 great performances and 4 mediocre performances. Mediocre as in like, if you're mediocre, no, that's mediocrity. Mediocre performances. So this is what Jared Cook has done. 22.5 points in week 1. Then he followed it up with 6.9 and 5.6. Those are mediocre performances, right? That's middle of the pack garbage tight end that you don't want. Sometimes you'll take that, but as of right now, we don't want that. We want 10 plus. Then he followed those 2 games with a 27-point performance. Then followed that game with 2 other ugly performances of 4 points and 2 points. Went on his bye this past week, coming off the bye. Jared Cook, in my opinion, he stands to benefit a lot from the trade of Amari Cooper away from this organization. To be honest, there were games this season that Amari Cooper just didn't even get targets. So I'm not sure this offense even, improves at all in the standpoint of other players getting more opportunity. I think the opportunity range is going to stand. The only person that's going to get extra opportunity that they warrant is perhaps Jalen Richard and Doug Martin. But I'm just hoping, okay, in a pretty good matchup against the Colts this week, a defense that is not fantastic. I'm sorry, not the Colts. Yeah, they are playing the Colts this week. They play the Colts this week. A defense that's not been that good this year, right? They've had a couple good games as of late, but there have been shootouts. Unless you're talking about the Bills last week, that's a different conversation. The Bills are the worst team in the NFL until they step up and beat the crap out of the Vikings or the Titans or somebody else. But either way, I think Jared Cook, he's a sneaky play in the sense that, yes, you're not expecting a lot because, he hasn't been fantastic all the season long. He's only had 2 great performances. Everything else has been just subpar. So as of right now, yes, I have him ranked up here, but just be careful. Understand the risk versus reward when it comes to this situation. I like him this week. All right, number 7, Jimmy Graham, who has been more and more involved within this offense as the weeks have gone by. Earlier on, just like Trey Burton, you were thinking, okay, what are we going to get out of Jimmy Graham on a consistent basis? We haven't found Jimmy Graham to be that end zone and red zone target for the Packers, right? I initially thought, okay, we can guarantee Devontae Parker. We'll get to Devontae Parker. Devontae Adams with 10 plus touchdowns. We can guarantee that. Why? Because the 2 seasons prior, he's done that. And we can guarantee Jimmy Graham to have at least 8 to 10 touchdowns because why? He has always been the red zone target for the Saints and the Seahawks and the last 2 teams he's played for. Coming into this organization, I understand they already have a red zone target, but I think Jimmy Graham, as the season progresses, rest of the season has more opportunity. He's been involved in the offense. His target count is good. He's playing and scoring pretty, well in fantasy, 9.6, 10.6, 12.2 in the last 3 games that he's played. I think in a half-point PPR maybe even in a standard league, he's been good. I think rest of the season he has more upside to get more touchdowns. Only 1 touchdown on the season. I think that is to go up as we progress. So this coming week against the Rams, the linebackers of the Rams I don't think are great. We know that for a fact. They're getting carried by their offense. So as of right now, he's my number 7. Number 8, we have Eric Ebron, a guy that I mentioned before, has 6 touchdowns on the season. I don't know. That's just the thing, right? Eric Ebron's had some games where he had 2 touchdowns in a single game, had a touchdown in, each of the first 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. He had a touchdown for the first 2 games, 1 apiece. Then he no-showed in game 3, and then he had a 1-2-1 for the next 3 weeks after that. 6 total touchdowns Jack Doyle will eventually come back. It will take value away from Ebron, but as of right now, I don't think that's the biggest issue for Ebron. It's probably the fact that the Colts have a pretty easy matchup this week. They play against the Raiders. And on top of that, T.Y. Hilton coming back, that makes Eric Ebron no longer the number one wide receiver on this team. When T.Y. Hilton was down and out, Eric Ebron was having games with 10 to 15 targets. And that was increasing his value to the point where he was blowing up. He was having that, those 15 to 25 point games that he was carrying your fantasy team. But as of right now, when T.Y. Hilton's come back, Marlon Mack has come back, and Jack Doyle eventually comes back, Eric Ebron's value will diminish. He might be a guy that you want to move, perhaps trade in the next week or so before the bye week, because week 9 is a bye week. Perhaps if you could manage to trade him and get another tight end, it's not a bad idea, to be honest. Okay, number 9, we have O.J. Howard. He's been better than expected. He's obviously the Terminator. That's the nickname I've given him. When you have an MCL sprain and come back after a week and a half off and continue to play on it, he's been great as of late. His target count's going up with Jameis Winston. I'm pretty sure they've moved on from Cameron Brate. It's unfortunate. I love myself with some Cameron Brate. I know he's been successful in the past, especially in 2017 and 2016. But O.J. Howard, they drafted him from Alabama for a reason, to bring him in to be that number one tight end. This past week, only had 9.2 fantasy points. But the caveat to that is he had a touchdown called back that was, if I'm not mistaken, 30-plus yards. So it could have been an extra 9 points. Could have had himself a fantastic top 3 fantasy week at the tight end position. But either way, I still like him in the matchup against the Bengals. I think it's very advantageous for him, considering how many targets he's getting on a weekly basis. It's going to be good. And the way I see it, the Buccaneers defense, they're not going to stop anybody. If the Bengals can come out and consistently score, and Jameis Winston can come out and try to make this thing competitive, O.J. Howard is going to definitely be involved. Number 10, C.J. Uzomah, a guy that, as of late, he is the only tight end in that team. Yes, he may be the 4th receiving option, like I mentioned before, but I still have hope in him. He's my number 10 for a reason. And I think going forward, rest of season, he's a tight end that you can play on a consistent basis. Get between, in half-point PPR, I think 7 to 12 points a week. That is his baseline floor. I don't know. The only way he supersedes that and ends up having a fantastic week is if he can get that ever-elusive touchdown. That is the main difference as of right now. Number 11, we have Vance McDonald. Hopefully, for those of you who were struggling at the tight end position, and you saw Vance McDonald on the waiver this past week because he was on a bye week and maybe someone in your league dropped him, congratulations, you've picked up a guy that is a tight end 1, top 12 tight end on a consistent basis, playing against the Browns this week. I think he has a very good opportunity of having some success. I really do believe so. Vance McDonald, a part of this very high-scoring offense. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they're going to have they're playing at home as well. They're going to have a pretty decent and easy time, in my opinion, going through this defense. I know this defense has been tough, but I don't know. It just depends. Here's the thing about Vance McDonald. There's always a possibility that Vance McDonald disappears. That is why he's at 11. Okay, there's a reason why he's not in a top 8 situation. It's because one week he'll be fantastic. The next week after that, he'll drop you a goose egg, right? Then he'll be great the next week, and then he'll be average. Then he'll be great, and then goose egg, average, great. He's very inconsistent. That's not because he's not talented. It's just because Jesse James still exists within this offense. And on top of it, when you have to feed Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and James Conner, and potentially other guys like James Washington as well, maybe even when Lev Bell comes back, it's going to be difficult to get the tight end the ball. So just be careful with these Steelers tight ends. All right, number 12, Kyle Rudolph. I personally really thought Kyle Rudolph would have had a fantastic year being paired with Kirk Cousins, who's always been a lover of his tight ends. He's always, with Jordan Reed, Vernon Davis in the past, he's been great with the tight end position. He's always looked to find his tight end. Kyle Rudolph this season, if I'm not mistaken, oh my God, Kyle Rudolph is a top 12 tight end? No way. Oh my God, he's the number 12. That's disturbing. just the fact that Kyle Rudolph is considered a tight end 1 thus far this season with these statistics, 28 catches, 280 yards, and 2 touchdowns. God, he's just been so bad. The last couple weeks, 5 targets, 4 targets. And he's not a red zone threat. Adam Thielen is the red zone threat as of right now. And on top of that, it's either Latavius Murray after him and or Stephon Diggs. So he's not really getting much in the red zone. Hasn't caught a touchdown since week 3. I have him lower off at this number 12 range because the matchup is advantageous. He plays against the New Orleans Saints. They give points in bunches. That secondary, they can't stop anybody. There's a potential that Kyle Rudolph has a good game if the offense is rolling, Kirk Cousins is moving the ball, and they're consistently, scoring back and forth. There's a good chance that he has a decently average game, like 8 fantasy points. But that's average, right? And that's what you're looking for. That's your upside. So as of right now, Kyle Rudolph, if you can package trade him to somebody in order to get a Jimmy Graham somehow, that would be fantastic for the rest of the season. But as of right now, he's just going to sit here at my number 12. That's where he's ranked in the points, scored thus far this season. So that's where I'll leave him. Number 13, Jordan Reed. Oh, man, Jordan Reed. I don't know. It's the same situation as Kyle Rudolph. He's literally identical almost to a point. We thought, okay, Alex Smith, wow, he used Travis Kelce so much throughout his entire career in Kansas City. Why wouldn't he be able to transition that to when he's come to Washington, a team that has a good tight end? Jordan Reed, when healthy, is great. We know that for a fact. Statistically, he's been really good throughout his career when he's played, at least 13 games in a season. He's been healthy this entire season, yet he's just been terrible. Like, where has Jordan Reed been? He's the number 14 tight end. He's behind Jesse James in points scored in half-point PPR. He scored less than Jesse James. I mean, oh my goodness. It's ridiculous. As of right now, Jordan Reed, if he's your best tight end, you have to start him. But, I'm just saying, he hasn't been great, and he's not a good option going forward. I'm just a little worried about him. Number 14, Evan Engram, still trying to get acclimated with this team. I don't even know what he did this past week. I didn't hear Evan Ingram's name once when it comes to last week's game. Yeah, 4 targets, 2 receptions, 16 yards. That seems that seems just about right. Evan Engram, he's not going to get the ball more than Odell, that's for sure. He's not going to get the ball more than Saquon. And Sterling Shepard had himself a very, very, very good game against a very bad defense, right? We knew it. I called it as the start of the week. We knew he was going to be good. But Evan Engram, you're the odd man out at this point. You're the 4th option within this offense. Unfortunate, but it's the fact. That's why you're at 14. Number 15, Greg Olsen. If you told me right now, okay, that Greg Olsen still has a broken foot and he's been playing on a broken foot the last couple of weeks, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not. He's honestly just a disappointment. For those of us who drafted him early, I have him in one of my leagues. It's disappointing. He's starting for me in that league specifically this week. He started for me last week. But it just depends. If you can find, again, these are guys that if you can trade away and upgrade at the tight end position, which I know is going to be hard right now because there isn't many great tight ends, if you look from up above, there's 10 good tight ends that I want rest of the season. The rest of them, 11 and below, I'm worried about it. I'm not 100% confident. Okay, so anyway, that's Greg Olsen. Don't have very much confidence. He's my number 15. Number 16, Ben Watson. I even have maybe more confidence in Ben Watson going forward. It just depends. Ben Watson, we know, in an offense that is going to move the ball, if he's given his opportunity, I guess he's good. But here's the thing. Ben Watson is just as inconsistent as all these other guys, if not more inconsistent. Hasn't scored as much. Is an older fella, 35, 36 years old. So, he just has it's going to be a shootout. That's all it is. The matchup is good this week. That's the only reason why I would ever consider him this week. That's literally the only reason. Other than that, the last guy, Chris Herndon, whatever. As of right now, Herndon. Yeah, Herndon. Just it doesn't roll off the tongue as well as I would like it to. Let me just pull up this guy's stats really quickly. Here's my argument for it. He plays tight end for the Jets. Okay, he had a pretty good week this past week for the Jets. He was probably the only guy to catch more than like 3 balls this past week. So here's the deal. Robbie Anderson hasn't practiced the last 2 days. Jermaine Kearse was a ghost last week. So chances are he's a ghost again. Bilal Powell is out for the season with injured IR. On top of that, Quincy Enunwa is out. Terrell Pryor will most likely be out. So who do we have left? We have the ghost of Jermaine Kearse's past. And then we have Rashard Matthews, who just got signed earlier this week. That I don't even know if he's acclimated enough to play this week. And we have Isaiah Crowell. And then we have Chris Herndon. So who do you expect to catch the ball? Is it going to be the newcomer, the ghost, or Isaiah Crowell? I don't think it's either of them. I think Chris Herndon this coming week has a pretty good opportunity of having a silently good fantasy week. You may see him with the... You may see him with that thing over there. He might be involved with that tomorrow. We'll just have to wait and see. But just wanted to let that name go out. Just keep your guys' interest, just in case you were looking for a tight end. Maybe even Ed Dixon. Guys, Ed Dixon coming back for the Seattle Seahawks. He was injured this preseason. The Seahawks need a tight end with Will Disley going down. Nick Vannett is a trash can. So, at least fantasy-wise, I'm sure he contributes to the team, people, okay? But as of right now, the way I see it, that's my top 17-ish, 18-ish tight ends. Just wanted to talk about them. This video went a lot longer than I expected, honestly. I started talking for a while. Just want to really quickly go over Thursday night's game. I was able to watch it. What the heck was that? Deshaun Watson, 5 touchdown passes on 16 total completed passes. He had himself a very good game. Okay, plain and simple. But this is the kind of Thursday night game I want. I want to see this kind of Thursday night game every single week. I want to either win or lose my week on Thursday night. And that's what happened for many of you. If you played against the Deshaun Watson owner, well, there's a lot of points. 5 touchdowns, 239 passing yards. Not a lot of yards passing, but that was mainly because Lamar Miller on the ground for the second week in a row has broken 100 yards. He had 113 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, 7.4 yards per carry average just today. That's incredible. Will Fuller, I'm proud to announce my start of the week at the wide receiver position. Will Fuller had 5 receptions for 124 yards and a touchdown, but unfortunately, dude was out for the game after he got jumped on. His knee kind of buckled underneath himself. So Kiki Cutie going forward maybe until Will Fuller figures it out. DeAndre Hopkins had himself a very good game. 87 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. And somehow Jordan Thomas, the tight end that has come out of nowhere, just like every other team, somehow these tight ends come out of nowhere and they steal touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns on 4 receptions. We'll see. I don't know about Jordan Thomas. This may be a fluke, but I'm not buying into it. On the other side of the ball, the Dolphins, Kenyon Drake. There it is, guys. I said it a couple weeks back. Kenyon Drake needs 4 weeks. Okay, for my full-on confidence. He needed to put up 4 good weeks. He's done it. This was the 4th week. I started him in all my leagues. I am very proud to say that he has, gotten me that 20-plus points. It's going to help me out really well this week. Kenyon Drake still splits carries with Frank Gore, though. That's what pisses me off. Frank Gore still had just as many carries. If not, I think he had, and he had just as many passing opportunities as Kenyon Drake. Come on, Adam Gase. It's easy. Just get the young man some more carries, okay? I understand. You're dealing with Frank Gore back there. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest to ever play the position. I understand it, but come on. Other than that, Devontae Parker. We had 2 players. We had Lamar Miller, Devontae Parker. 2 guys that haven't been completely amazing as of late. We know Lamar Miller's struggles in the past, but he's turned that around. He got healthy. In the last 2 weeks, he has been on fire. Devontae Parker, having only caught 2 balls prior to this game, having only been active for 2 other games prior to this game, he comes out 6 receptions, 134 receiving yards, looking fantastic. One of the catches was that ricochet off the helmet that he caught for like 30 yards. Doesn't matter to me. Just the fact that he was able to be used within this offense at a consistent rate it gives me confidence going forward. I think they're either going to trade him off of the hype that he just got, or they're going to keep him and use him because Albert Wilson's out, and I don't know when Kenny Stills comes back healthy. So, if Brock Osweiler continues to be this quarterback, Devontae Parker, who could have had, literally, he could have had 200 receiving yards today and a touchdown, but Osweiler figured himself out. Let me throw the ball 7 yards over this dude's head. Devontae Parker could have been amazing this week. Still was, in all purposes. Going forward, guys, and maybe he's a waiver wire pickup. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. We've gone way too long. But that's what happens, man. When you get me talking about football, it's a river. It just keeps flowing, and I enjoy it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, go down, click the like button. If you haven't yet, subscribe to this YouTube channel to get more content on the daily. Tomorrow we will have the hidden gems of the week, as you can see back there, right there. Yep, right there. It's like a thumb glove as of right now. You can just fit my I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.